Hi there, I'm Chris, and I'm going to take you through lesson 7 of the Contact Forces and Computer Science units. This lesson is your students' first exposure to the computer science pieces of this unit. It's a lot of fun, but it can be a lot to set up, so I'm going to take you through every piece of it. Let's look at how we got here. In lesson 5, you developed a pretty complex model with your students about when the moving cart has more energy, the contact forces are greater, which results in more damage. And you also figured out that both mass and speed seem to affect the amount of energy, the kinetic energy. And so in lesson 6, towards the end of it, students start wondering what causes more damage in a collision, doubling the mass or doubling the speed. So in this lesson, we're going to investigate that with a hands-on investigation first, and then we're going to do a computer simulation to gather more specific data. Overall, let's look at this lesson. It's a 2-day lesson. There's a whole lot of setup, but it's really important to make sure that that investigation goes smoothly and your students' experience with the technology is positive. It requires some devices. For the investigation, it requires microbits and light sensors. And for the simulation, it requires student devices. Finally, there is a video that will help you set up the light sensors. It's on slide F of the teacher slides. Okay, overall, this unit has 2 major chunks. The first chunk is about a day and a half. It's setting up the investigation, running it, and making sense of it. And then after that, we're going to do the computer simulation. So this first chunk here is the first day and a half of the lesson. You start off by navigating into the lesson and helping the students plan out the investigation. Part 2, you're planning how are you even going to set it up. And then in part 3, they're making predictions, they're planning out the procedure. Part 4 is the rest of day 1, when students just run the investigation and collect data. On parts 5 and 6, you're coming back the next day and seeing if you can make sense of the data, see if you can come up with a relationship. Look, there's a lot of key points we're going to dig into in this video, but overall, if by the end of this chunk, kids have figured out that speed seems to affect kinetic energy more than mass does, you're in a good spot. The second big chunk is when you're getting into the computer simulation. So you start saying, well, how could we collect more precise data? Kids are going to want to have really precise data. They're going to suggest a computer simulation like they've done in the years past. The next piece, part 8, is when they actually run that simulation. And then in part 9, you're making sense. And 10, they're going to be writing an exit ticket, seeing if they can use the relationships they found. Overall, they're going to find that mass and kinetic energy are directly proportional, meaning if you double the mass, it doubles the kinetic energy. But speed is not directly proportional like that. It has to do with the square of the scale factor. So if you double the speed, it quadruples the kinetic energy because 2 squared is 4. If you triple the speed, then it multiplies the kinetic energy by 3 squared, which is 9. All right, let's dig into the key moments in this lesson. First off is part 2 when you're planning for the investigation. In this piece, you're just trying to figure out how could you measure the amount of kinetic energy. And so let me take you through this image below me here. You see on the left the spring scale and the cart. Your students have used these in prior investigations. So you're going to launch the cart. Next, you see a flashlight shining at a sensor below it. That's the light sensor, which is connected to the microbit. And eventually on the track, you see a box and a meter stick. So the distance that that box gets pushed, that's going to be the analog for kinetic energy since we can't measure energy directly. You want to make sure that kids understand that that sensor there is actually not measuring speed, but it's measuring the amount of time that the light gets blocked. And so to figure out speed, we have to do distance divided by time, while the distance that the cart's traveling while it blocks the light is just the length of the cart. So you do the length of the cart divided by the time and you'll get the speed. Lastly, your students might be confused why we're using 2 independent variables because usually we just use 1, but you might want to stress that we're only changing 1 at a time, so that's okay. Next, let's look at part 3 where your students make predictions and actually plan the procedure for the investigation. So first of all, the students are going to predict whether mass or speed affects the kinetic energy more. And my students always seem to think that they're going to affect them equally. And so when that doesn't happen, I love it. Then some real learning is really going to happen in the class. The flow chart with the procedure is actually really difficult for students to understand. So I would go through that with them. And it's important to note that I would not remove this. Like, don't take this out because it's too difficult. This previews a lot of the computer science that students will encounter later on in the unit. And if they can refer back to this, it's going to be a solid ground. So it's just a flow chart showing kids, if it's working, then go on to the next step. If it's not, then go on back. And even that's called a conditional statement. They'll see that in the computer program. So keep this in here. When students are actually planning on how they're going to make sure that they're changing speed or mass, every time they're going to be changing the launching force. Now, that's obvious that you got to change the launching force if you wanted to go faster. But if you wanted to go the same speed but changing the mass, you still have to increase the launching force. And some kids, that might not be obvious to. Finally, the launching force is not precise. So we're going to plan it as if it is a precise thing, but you want to tell students that you want either the speed to double or you want the speed to stay the same. And they might have to launch a couple of times to get the exact result they're looking for. All right, now we're on part 5, which is the first thing to do on day 2 of this lesson. You're going to make sense of the data that students got from their investigation. This data is messy. So first off, I would make a plan of how you want to record this on chart paper with your students, but your students aren't going to get clean data. What you want to piece out of this is that the speed affects the kinetic energy more than the mass does. All right. And overall, you want to figure out that, we need better data than this, which is going to move us onto the computer simulation. All right, in part 8, you're actually having students collecting that data from the simulation. Now, here's the deal. This data is going to be really precise. So let's set up this data table really well. It's complicated, so I would help students set this up before you go. You start with an initial mass and speed, and then you double, triple, all the way to 5 times the original mass or 5 times the original speed. Now, in the lesson plan, it tells you to start off with the initial conditions of 10 for mass and speed. But if you do that, you get 5 times 10, which is 50, and the simulation only goes up to 40 for both mass and speed. So I suggest initial conditions of 8 for both mass and speed, so that 5 times 8 is 40. And I would definitely test this simulation out on a student device before the lesson just to make sure it works perfectly. Don't forget to tell kids to click the setup button before they do the go pause button. All right, after this lesson, kids are experts on kinetic energy, and they're going to be asking, where's that energy coming from? Where does it go when the carts stop? And that's where we'll go from here. Let's talk about materials now for this unit. All right, most of the materials management is about the investigation. It's really important that you set this up beforehand and you are an expert on it so you can help students with any issues that they have. I find that the most difficult part is knowing exactly where the light sensor is on your equipment. So I would find out where it is, try covering it with your hand to block the light, and see if at times how long you're blocking the light for. If not, maybe you've got the wrong spot. You want to know exactly where that sensor is so you can show kids where that sensor is, because that needs to be pointed directly at the flashlight. It also helps if the lights are a little bit dim. I pull the shades on my windows. I leave the lights on because it gets dark enough. You don't need a totally dark room, but you want to set it up for success. Finally, if your equipment is having any issues, I find that just turning it off and back on again fixes most of those issues. For the word wall, there's really only 2 words to worry about for this lesson. They're both optional, but I highly recommend using them. They both come into the procedure, and it's flowchart and loop. That loop is just that conditional statements, the if-then piece of it. If you're using these words, then when you get to the computer programming later on in this unit, kids can refer back to this and they'll know what they mean before it gets all confusing with the computer programming. For posters, you're going to be building off of the lesson 5 model that you created. And you're going to use some chart paper for sense making to look at the data that students collected, both for the investigation and for the simulation. There is an optional progress tracker if there's time as well. All right, listen, I think you're going to love this unit. Kids are going to see that technology and the sensors are just going to make this lab a lot easier than if they were trying to time it with stopwatches. Have fun and enjoy.